They all called her a survivor, but survival doesn't end when the gunfire stops. 2 years after the Parkland tragedy, Ava Thompson returns to the halls that nearly ended her life. Not to relive the past, but to expose the silence that followed. Because some wounds don't bleed, they write. 2 years after the shooting, Ava Thompson stood outside Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, her heart pounding louder than the morning bell. Everything looked the same: the red bricks, the flags, even the security guard by the front gate. But Ava had changed. She wasn't just a student anymore. She was a survivor. Inside, the halls felt quieter than she remembered. She passed locker 237, the one near where she had hidden that day, and a chill ran down her spine. But she didn't stop. She was here for something bigger than fear. Ava had joined the Eagle Eye, the school's newspaper, determined to tell the stories no one else would. In room 208, Mr. Carver gave her a small nod as she entered. "Glad to have you," he said. Ava found a seat in the back, opened her notebook, and wrote one line. What happens after the world moves on? This wasn't just a return. It was the beginning of something deeper. Ava's eyes drifted across the classroom. Everything looked normal: chatter, backpacks, the rustling of papers. But one chair near the front sat empty. No one said anything, but everyone knew who used to sit there. His name was Miguel. He was Ava's lab partner. Gone now, just like the 26 others. At lunch, Ava sat under the old oak tree near the courtyard, flipping through an old yearbook. Her fingers paused on Miguel's smile. She thought about asking his sister for an interview. But how do you reopen someone else's pain? Jordan Reyes, a quiet senior who once played linebacker, sat down beside her. "You thinking about writing something real?" he asked. Ava nodded, surprised he noticed. "Good. People act like it's over. But it's not." That night, Ava typed her first article draft. She didn't name anyone. She didn't mention the shooter. Just a piece titled "The Empty Chair," about grief that lingers even when classrooms are full. She hit save but not submit. Tomorrow, she'd decide if the school was ready. But more importantly, if she was. Ava stared at her laptop screen the next morning, finger hovering over the submit button. Her article, "The Empty Chair," was raw and personal. No flashy quotes, no names, just truth. Her palms were sweaty. What if they hated it? What if they ignored it? Before she could second-guess herself, she clicked submit. By third period, her phone buzzed. "Mr. Carver. Come see me after class." Her heart skipped. Was she in trouble? In room 208, Mr. Carver closed the door behind her. "I read your article," he said, placing a printout on the desk. "It's honest. It hurts. And that's exactly why it matters." He handed her a press badge. "You're officially a staff writer. Get ready. People are going to talk." By lunch, the article was live on the Eagle Eye site. Ava sat quietly in the courtyard, watching students scroll through their phones. Some paused. Some frowned. A few looked around the cafeteria, noticing the empty spaces they'd learned to ignore. No one said Ava's name, but she felt it a shift. Someone had spoken the unspeakable, and that someone was her. This was no longer just healing. It was the beginning of a voice finding its place. Ava's article had only been live for a few hours, but her inbox already had a message waiting. Subject: thank you. Sender: anonymous. The email was short, just a few lines. "I didn't think anyone noticed that chair. My brother sat there. I walk past it every day like it's not there, but it is. It always is. Thank you for seeing it." Ava stared at the screen, eyes stinging. This was more than a story. It was connection, silent, invisible, but real. In her next journalism class, Mr. Carver pulled her aside. "I want you to pitch a series." One article turned heads. Imagine what 10 could do. Ava nodded, hesitant but intrigued. What if she created something bigger? A project that gave a voice to every silent hallway, every student who still walked with ghosts? She jotted down a new title: Voices Between the Bells. It wasn't just about grief anymore. It was about memory, survival, and truth, and how storytelling could keep them alive. Ava didn't know what the next article would be yet, but she knew where it would begin. Locker 237. It took Ava 3 days to work up the courage. Locker 237 stood near the science wing, silent, clean, ordinary. No flowers now. No caution tape. Just a dull gray door with a faint scratch near the lock. But for Ava, it was the place where she'd held her breath for 9 minutes that felt like forever. She placed her hand on the cold metal. Memories rushed in muffled screams, locked doors, her own heartbeat thudding in her ears. She pulled out her notebook and wrote, Not all survivors run. Some freeze. Some listen. Some remember every second. She stayed there until the final bell rang. That night, Ava drafted her next article. 9 minutes at locker 237. It wasn't about facts or timelines. It was about what survival felt like when the world expected you to be okay. When she submitted it, Mr. Carver didn't say a word. He just placed a sticky note on it. This one will echo. Ava didn't know who would read it, but she hoped someone somewhere who thought they were weak for freezing would feel seen. The day after 9 minutes at locker 237 went live, Ava found a photo taped to her locker. It was old, grainy, faded at the edges. A boy with curly hair and bright eyes smiled at the camera, holding up a science fair trophy. On the back, scribbled in blue ink, "He hid with you. I thought you should know." No name, no sender, just a photo and a message that made Ava's knees weaken. She remembered the boy. They never spoke, but he had crouched 2 lockers down from her during the shooting. She hadn't seen him since. Had he moved? Dropped out? Ava felt a sudden pull, not of fear, but of responsibility. That evening, she began digging. Attendance records. School yearbooks. She found a name, Elias Rivera. He had never returned. Ava drafted her next piece. The ones who don't come back. It wasn't about death. It was about the kids who survived, but couldn't step back into the same hallways. Some disappear quietly. Some never get asked why. Ava was going to ask. Ava found Elias Rivera's name in the school's withdrawal log. No forwarding address. No explanation. Just a date, March 5th, 2 weeks after the shooting. She checked yearbooks, class photos, even social media. Nothing recent. It was like he had vanished. She interviewed a few classmates who vaguely remembered him. He was quiet, one said. Smart, always wore headphones. After the shooting, he just stopped coming. No one had noticed he was missing until Ava brought his name up. Later that week, Ava received another anonymous email. Subject: I know Elias. Message: he's in Tampa. Dropped out. Working at a car wash. Won't talk about Parkland. Maybe you shouldn't either. Ava stared at the screen. She could feel the wall being built, not by Elias, but by people too tired to remember. She titled her next piece, The Quiet Dropout. It wasn't about trauma. It was about how easy it is for schools, for friends, for entire towns to let someone slip through the cracks. Ava wasn't trying to fix anything. She just wanted to notice. And maybe, if Elias ever read her words, he'd know someone still remembered him. A week after her article on Elias, Ava noticed something new. Eyes following her in the hallways. Not angry, not curious, just watching. Some students nodded as she passed. Others looked away quickly, pretending not to care. In the girls' restroom, a freshman named Chloe stopped her. That story about the dropout, my cousin left too, she whispered. He couldn't handle it. Nobody talks about it, but I'm glad you did. Ava thanked her, unsure what to say. She hadn't realized the weight of being the one who writes the things no one wants to hear. It was heavier than she expected. Later that day, Mr. Carver pulled her aside. Your stories are making people feel seen, he said. But they're also making some uncomfortable. Admin's watching. Ava blinked. Am I in trouble? No, he said. But be ready for pushback. She walked home that afternoon, thinking about Chloe. About Elias. About how many stories lived between locker doors and late bells. She scribbled her next title in the margin of her notebook. The Silence Between Us. Ava's next piece dropped on a Friday morning. The silence between us wasn't about a person. It was about the looks, the tension, the things no one dared say out loud in crowded cafeterias or group projects. By lunch, her article had nearly 400 views. More than any before. But there were no comments. No reposts. Just silence, the very thing she had written about. At her locker, she found a sticky note folded in half. Some things are better left buried. Let it go. No name. Just messy handwriting and vague threat. Ava stared at the note for a long time. Then she folded it back and tucked it into her notebook. She wasn't scared, not yet. But she understood now. Not everyone wanted healing. Some just wanted forgetting. That night, Ava sat on her bed, knees to her chest, scrolling through old news headlines. Faces she remembered. Names she couldn't forget. She wondered how many stories had already been buried by time, or by choice. She added one more line to her notebook. If silence protects the system, maybe the noise is the only weapon we've got. She was no longer writing just for others. She was writing to survive. They tried to move on, tried to forget, but she chose to remember, not just for herself, but for everyone who couldn't. Ava Thompson didn't just write articles. She wrote truth into the cracks of silence. And in doing so, she proved that the smallest voice, when brave enough, can echo louder than gunfire. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that give a voice to the unheard. Because the silence ends when we speak.